Hey there, and thanks for watching our tutorial about our SAML Single Sign-On plugin together with OneLogin and manual provisioning. With manual provisioning, we mean the fact that your users are already in your Atlassian application via some other way. For example, via LDAP or via crowd. Doesn't really matter to us. So the job for our plugin is really only to authenticate existing users in your Atlassian application against OneLogin. To get started, we'll start off in the wizard of our app, do a couple of steps there, then move over to OneLogin, create the SAML configuration on the OneLogin side, and then go back into our plugin settings to complete the configuration and test it as well. So let's get started then. You see I'm here in my demo Jira system. I have this user CR local 1, and that's the user we're going to try and authenticate against OneLogin later on. So let's start with the SAML configuration. Let's go to SAML Single Sign-On. And when you go there for the first time, you get the Getting Started wizard. And what we want to do here is add a new identity provider. And then I'm going to select OneLogin. Selecting OneLogin here means we already do some pre-configuration in the background in our app because we know that identity provider. You also find the step-by-step documentation down here. So let's go to next step. And now let's copy this base URL because that's what we need to have to do the configuration on the OneLogin side. So let's move over to OneLogin now. Here I'm logged in already. Let's go to the admin section. Applications, and then we want to add an application, and now we see the OneLogin catalog and search for resolution here. We already have a pre-configured catalog app which makes the setup much easier. Let's click here. Here's the display name of the application, demo Jira. Use a good name here because that's the name that people will see in their dashboards once they logged into OneLogin, and ideally also replace the icon away from our app logo to something that's more meaningful to your users. Let's save this. And then we need to get to the configuration section here, and that's where we need to enter the base URL, but watch out here, you need to remove the HTTPS part. So only sort of the base host name is what we need here. Let's save this. And let me just quickly have a look here. Yeah, roles are set to default. That actually means all the users that are in the role default will have access to this app integration, so can authenticate via SAML. If you have a more complex setup on your OneLogin, then you'll have different roles assigned. Then obviously choose the role that makes sense for you. And if I click here to users, you should see all the users that have access now. Here it's only that one user, the CR demo Jira user. That's the one we're going to try to authenticate with later. So that's pretty much all we have to do here. Let's just do one last thing. Go on to SAML Metadata here, right click it and copy the link address. Essentially, SAML metadata is a lot of configuration information of the IDP that we can just load into our plugin. So it saves you a lot of cut and paste. And the good thing about doing it via metadata URL, like here, we can also monitor that on an ongoing basis to adjust for any changes, like expiring certificates. So back to our plugin. Let's go to next here, and that's where the plugin wants the metadata URL. And by the way, if you don't have access or if your Jira doesn't have internet access to pull that URL, you could also have clicked the link on OneLogin, download the XML file and say here I have a metadata XML file and upload it here. We want to do it via the URL now. Let's say import. Import was successful, so let's go to next. And here the plugin wants to know if, essentially, if the usernames on the OneLogin side are the same usernames as in Jira, Confluence, etc. In our example, that's the case, so I can leave the settings as they are. But just to quickly show you, If the usernames are not the same on both sides or it's sent in a different SAML attribute, you can adjust all that here. You can apply regular expressions, you can apply even Groovy scripts in terms of to adjust the usernames and things to the values that you need. That's not part of this tutorial. If that's something that you need because your situation requires it, then please reach out to our support and we can happily help you there. Let's go to next here. Right. This is the question about if we want to use any of the provisioning features of our plugin, so essentially to create and update users in your Atlassian application. Since it's a manual provisioning tutorial, so your users are already in, we don't have to configure anything here. Let's go to Save and Next. So that's essentially the configuration done. Now we can start and test our settings. I'm going to click on Start here. And you see it creates me an Authentication Tracker link. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to open that in an incognito window in a second. That will redirect me to OneLogin and have me go back to Jira and hopefully successfully log in. And we can also, in this screen, watch the results as part of this Authentication Tracker. So, but let me talk less and show you more. Let's go to an incognito window, paste this URL, and you see we get redirected to OneLogin. I need to authenticate. And then it will redirect me back to Jira. And you see I get to the first start wizard because that's the first time I log in with that user, but we are successfully authenticated. Now let's go back to other screen. Now you see actually all the results in this in the tracker results. You see it's been successful, we logged in, and just to show you a little bit, you see a lot of the debug messages, the login information that we extracted, down to the SAML request, the SAML response, and even request headers. So in case this wouldn't have been successful and you ran into any trouble, you have the contact support button at the bottom that allows you to raise a support request in our Jira Service Manager straight out of this UI. And you can also choose to attach this tracker so that we get all the information that you've had here and that we typically need to help you solve the issue you face. You can also download the tracker, then you have it as a JSON file and can attach it to an existing case, for example, if you have one. But since this was successful, there's not much more to do for us. Let's go to Next, which essentially brings us to the last screen of the wizard. And this is asking us essentially to enable the redirect. Anything we have done so far didn't interfere with any of the user's authentications. So they still saw their normal username, password, login prompt. Once I turn on Enable SSO Redirect here, that changes and once I save it essentially. Basically users will get redirected to the identity provider to authenticate and then come back into Jira. So I'll do that now and choose Save and Close. If you don't want to do that, right now and prefer to do it in a maintenance window, for example, then just leave the box unchecked and you can always go back to the redirection section here and enable the SSO redirect after the fact. So that concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching it. We're always here to help, so please reach out if you run into any trouble or have any questions, need some advice. You can raise a support request easily in our Jira Service Management system. We also offer free screen share sessions that you can easily book and where we can actually help you do the configuration together or answer any questions interactively. Thanks a lot.